Call to order the Kearney R-1 Board of Education meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Darlene Bailey. Here. Brian Ham.
Here.
Dan Holloway.
Here.
John Kern.
Here.
Bree Switzer. Here. Susan Warman. Here. Mark Kelly.
Here. Quorum being present, entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that the agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. No public comment. Entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Information items. Current school operations, KSD Connect update.
Yeah, thank you. So, can you believe that we have been in school for 6 weeks? Can you believe that? Well, 6 weeks of school have been an interesting endeavor this year amidst the pandemic, and there have been some changes in the way we operate. So, in our elementary schools, we've been able to have full capacity elementary classes, and with the addition of masks and physical distancing, we've had teachers taking on additional duties to make sure students are cohorted and stay separated from each other, and they've done a great job. But for the most part, for the students, it looks pretty similar for most of our students than it would in a typical year, aside from some obvious. We have 2 programs this year that are a lot different than what we would normally have. One is KSD Connect, and that program is on for students that have chosen to be 100% online this year. And the other is at the secondary level, we've been using a hybrid schedule. And so tonight, the update is just to provide the board with information about how KSD Connect is going. We have Ms. Shaheen here, who is, let me tell you, if you've never seen Ms. Shaheen teach, you need to. It's exciting. And when you see her in just a virtual presence, I can't imagine what she'd be like in person. But we're really lucky to have her. She's going to share some of her experiences and the experience of her students with us this evening. And then when she has completed her presentation, there'll be time for some questions if you have some. And then Mrs. Kopp is going to give us an update on how secondary hybrid instruction is going. So this time, Ms. Shaheen.
All right, thank you for having me tonight. I'm excited to share the great things that are going on in KSD Connect. So just to kind of give you an idea of what our days look like, when we think about how we push out work to students, so I would love to get to my first slide. There we go. Okay, so how we organize our days. The first hurdle that we had with virtual learning was we are not used to virtual learning, and how are we going to keep this organized for students? And so up on the screen, this is a sample schedule of what my students follow. It is pretty similar to a typical day. We did that because we wanted students to know that this is still a full day of learning, that they are not missing out on anything that they would be getting if they were face-to-face. And so we also want them to know that when the assignments roll out in the morning for that day, they don't have to try to power through everything at once. We want them to have a recess break. We want them to have specials and lunch. We want them to take their time in their learning so it's more enjoyable. And then the little picture over on the side is how I stay organized. That's my headquarters where I'm at all day. And as long as I'm organized, then the kids are able to stay organized. So, how do we communicate daily assignments? We have morning Zoom meetings that we do with all of our students. So everyone in the class comes to our Zooms. It's a time to see each other, to say hi, to actually get that kind of face-to-face interaction. And then this is the example of my morning slide from October 20th. It gives the students a rundown of what they should expect for that day for ELA for writing for math. Science and social studies are embedded in ELA writing. And so it's just going to give them a very quick overview of what to expect during the day. And then they go off to Google Classroom. The upper grades use Google Classroom for organizing and pushing out work. And this is a screenshot of what mine looked like the other day. So at the top, there are some pinned posts. Those are the really important things that I want students to always have access to. Their daily agenda board that we talk about in our morning meetings. And then their student schedule. Always good for the students to be able to refer back to those so they know what to do if they're ever questioning during the day. And then the dates down, October 19th through the 23rd, that's the week that we were in. And then you can see the assignments. They are organized by date, they're labeled by subject, and then a little title to go with it. The great thing about Google Classroom is that when students are finished with an assignment, it turns gray. So it's a very visual way for a child to know, are they done with their assignments for the day? Do they still have more work to do? And then how do we help them stay organized? Again, with Google Classroom, it really takes the guesswork out of staying organized. So at the top left, when students click on one of their assignments, a little drop down comes and my teaching videos are there, my lesson videos, any articles that they need to read, any resources, and then whatever assignment they have for that particular subject. It's all there, it's very neat and organized, and it's easy for 4th grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade to figure out. So, and then another piece of Google Classroom that we absolutely love, students have the option to click on a to-do tab where they have a running list of exactly what their assignments are for the entire time they've been in KSD Connect. They can see what's been turned in, what's missing, it shows up in red. So it's a great way for students and also parents. If parents are wondering, you know, is my student caught up? Do they need help? This is where I tell them to go, and it's a fantastic list for everyone. So then how do we communicate with our students? Aside from the regular emails, phone calls to parents that we would typically do, Clever, which is the software that we use anyway for students, it's their kind of home screen. Clever has something new this year in its messaging. So I can send a text message to my students at any time during the day, and they can do the same for me. And this has been an absolute lifesaver, because where a student can't stand up and walk to my desk and ask me a question, they can now go to Clever and I immediately get their message. I can hop on Zoom with them. I can send them a message back and try to troubleshoot. Sometimes we use this to give reminders of, hey, you got a missing assignment. I use this all the time for affirmations. Great job on this. I really loved how you did this. And sometimes it's just to say hi. I have a lot of students that just want to talk. And so this is a way that we can do that if we're not like in a morning meeting. So how do we keep students engaged? This is the biggest piece. We are virtual, they're at home, they're with their toys, they're with their TV, they're with their own electronics. There's a lot of distractions that could get in the way. And so front and center, I do PBL. I put a lot of emphasis on project-based learning. I find that it is highly engaging and students want to do the work, they want to do the assignments. And Flipgrid, there's a little video here that we can watch a little bit of. This is an example of one of my last PBLs that we did. So Ryan, if you want to show that.
Hello guys, and today I have to show you my amusement book. So let me get started and tell you about the Midwest. So I have farmlands, which are plains, flat, grasslands, and a woods, rivers, lakes, just farmland. So here is my core maze. So like if you walk in this entrance, you can like do the core maze. Yeah. And here is the petting zoo. You can like pet different kinds of animals like horses, cows, maybe even chickens or pigs. Right. Now, here's my little racetrack and a roller coaster that you guys can enjoy and ride. So, let's stand. Here's the sandwich stand where wheat can be turned into bread, which bread is on sandwiches. And here is the popcorn stand where you get different flavored popcorn. And last but not least, here is the lake where you can go on a boat ride and go fishing. So, goodbye guys. I hope you like my little amusement park. Hope you like it. Goodbye.
So the students were tasked with creating an amusement park that showcased a region of the United States. And so he did the Midwest, that's why you had the wheat that went with his sandwich shops, it had the farm animals, it had the corn mazes, just a fun activity. They learned about the United States regions in depth, and then they got to create something exciting. And I didn't tell them how to create their amusement park. This particular student used Minecraft, and a lot of them did. So this is actually one of the benefits to virtual. They have all these fantastic things at home that we don't always have in the classroom to use for projects like this. And they were so excited. I had some that drew theirs, they sculpted, they painted, but they had that freedom and they learned a lot and they had fun. So Flipgrid also, this particular, I don't know if it's a software, it is a tool where the students can send me their videos, I watch them, I make sure that they're appropriate, and then I can put them live, and it's for every one of their classmates to see. So we do Flipgrids all the time. We do them for show and tell, we do them for math, ELA, for PBLs, anything that I can do a Flipgrid for, we do, because they get that face-to-face, seeing their classmates and hearing their classmates sharing without having to be in a face-to-face classroom. So Flipgrids have been awesome, and the kids really, really love to see their classmates and see what they've come up with. And then to the right, Kahoots is one example of the games that we use for digital. Game-based learning is huge for virtual education. I want my students to be excited to come to small groups. I want them to look forward to going to Google Classroom and seeing what game I have to surprise them on any given day. And so lots and lots of games to keep everyone engaged and actively learning. So next slide. There we go. So in general, how are we doing? We have so many celebrations. We have really come a long way. We feel, I talked to my team and kind of got their input, we really feel like we've done awesome with building a community in our virtual classrooms. And that was really our biggest concern, is being able to connect with students and get students to connect with each other. And through our Zoom meetings and through these Flipgrids that we use, we have those connections. And that was just such a relief when we realized that we were able to have that with these kiddos. Our daily routines are smooth. We don't have to make big changes anymore. Students know what to expect and they're doing awesome. We have great communication with parents. I call the parents their learning managers because they are the ones at home with their students. And inevitably, they're the ones that I go to if I need some help or need something to get done. So that open communication has been awesome. And then of course with our students, using clever messaging and just being able to connect with the kids. In Zoom meetings, there's an option for breakout rooms, and some of the teachers have been very successful with that. So they are able to kind of push the students into separate Zoom meetings, and it's almost like recreating what a table group would be in the face-to-face classroom. And then lastly, we just feel like our small group time with our students is really when we can connect and meet their needs. Because again, with virtual learning, we have that concern, are we going to be able to meet their needs? And we know we are, because we see that in our small group meetings and we see those successes. And then there comes struggles. And KSD Connect, we've had a lot of struggles. And we have, the main thing that we are finding is the time. It takes a lot of time to go through assignments, to grade, and then to check for late or missing work, and then to try to get the students to get that late or missing work completed. That in itself is definitely a lot of time, but then just the time that it takes to plan, create, and find resources that fit well with what we're doing in virtual learning. None of us were virtual teachers until a couple months ago. And so we have a lot to create, and we've embraced that, and we have really done amazing things. But it's still a struggle because it's time consuming. We also talked about how making sure our assessments are giving us valid information on each student. Students are at home with parents. Parents love to help, and we love it when parents help, but not on assessments. And so we have to be creative on how we're assessing our students to make sure that we're getting an accurate picture of their abilities versus the abilities of, someone who might be at home helping them out. Of course, connectivity issues, that comes with the territory of virtual. We still have some connectivity issues with students. Their Zooms will cut in and out and they're not able to hear us or we can't hear them. That happens, and we just kind of work around it. We go through clever messaging. We make phone calls to the students instead. Definitely work around, and then last thing is just really that kind of teacher mode of getting into that feeling of isolation. We are social people. We love people. We love kids. We love to talk. And getting in front of a computer all day was a change. And so sitting all day in front of the computer was a change. But again, that struggle comes with finding ways around it. So we take walks around our building. The second grade Fancy Connect teachers in my building. So we'll go outside if it's nice. We walk around. We walk the building for 20 minutes just to kind of, get up and move. So, bottom line, when we became teachers, we didn't have hopes and dreams of becoming a virtual educator. That wasn't in the forefront of our minds, but it's needed right now, and we've all embraced it, and I am really proud of our team. They are positive, they're excited, even if we're scared behind closed doors and, stressed, it doesn't show, and I'm just really, really proud of our team. So I appreciate you guys letting me give you a little glimpse of our world, and I would be open to any questions that you have.
So how many students do you have? And is the attendance on Zoom, is it full attendance?
So I have 25 students. My morning meetings are typically everyone, maybe one or two miss, but it's very high attendance. So we have a few friends who will lose track of time. Then, they may not show up to their Zoom, but we just send them the clever message and, hey, can you meet me at this time? We have a very good attendance for Zoom, so I'm really proud of that.
And then my other question is, for the curriculum, do you feel you're about on target where you should be for the year?
Definitely. So we have pacing guides that the district puts out, and I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. We follow those pacing guides to a T, because just in case a student does need to go back face-to-face, or if the face-to-face comes virtual, they will not skip a beat, and it will be a smooth transition. So yes, definitely confident that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. And of course, we talk to our grade level teams, even though they're face-to-face. I'm always popping in saying, hey, are you guys at this point? And we kind of, can talk like that. But
What grade level are you teaching?
I'm 4th. Yes.
You have a class of 25, so are they 25 students who have elected at that grade level to do complete distance learning?
Yes.
How many hours do you spend, you have your classroom time? How much time do you spend working outside of your online classroom?
So now I work maybe an hour outside of the time that I'm at school.
Okay.
When we started, hours. Every evening until at least 8. I was coming up on the weekends to do work, and that was across the board. We were all working a lot. And we're not new teachers. This is my 13th year. We have teachers in KSD Connect that have taught over 20. We're not new to this, but it was a lot bigger than what I think any of us even realized. And so we had to put a lot of hours in the forefront. And then once we found kind of that routine and just getting used to how to create things that are quality virtual lessons, once we got that under our belt, now things move a lot quicker. So we're able to manage our time much better. So this is more sustainable, and not driving us into the ground.
So you talked about the isolation part. So I heard you say you took walks. Are there anything else that you guys do to help with obviously mental health, and that's a huge part of this as well. Is there anything other that you do other than just walks, or is there?
So when we're in school, we have a KSD Connect chat, an instant message that we use together just to kind of check in, give each other praises, ask questions, just to kind of make sure everybody's doing fine. We keep smiling, and we know that it's fine. We know everyone is struggling with the same things, and we know we have each other. And so I think that helps. I know it helps my mental state, and it helps everyone just to know that we've got the support of each other. We have amazing administrative support. That is huge. So.
How many hours are you online per day?
Let's see. So I am online for probably scheduled online for about 4 hours, and then I have open times for Zoom. So if the kiddo needs help, if a parent needs to Zoom with me, I have kind of that open time. So probably out of like the 7 hours that I'm at school, it would be about 5 that I'm either scheduled on a Zoom or I have open Zooms to, be there for students who just need help when it's not their small group time.
Are students parents taking advantage of that time?
They are. Students especially. Parents not so much. Parents will email me, but students all the time. They will, if I'm not on, if my Zoom isn't open, if I forgot to open it, then they'll message me on Clever and they'll say, hey, can you hop on Zoom? And they know when my office hours are that, that I'm available for them, whether it's their specials time or anything like that. They know that I'm still there, just in case they need me. So they do utilize it, and I praise them every morning meeting. I love having them just pop in, and sometimes they got a new toy and they want to show me, which is fantastic. I love that too, because they have that connection with their teacher. They want to talk to me, they want to see me, and they want to show me what they're doing with their lives.
I have a family that I know that they were new to the district last year, right about the end of the semester, so they entered in with the spring. She chose to do KSD Connect, and she, I think as a 4th grader and then maybe a 2nd grader, the structure she says is amazing. She thinks you guys are doing a great job, and she likes the organization. She likes the availability of the teachers, so good job.
Awesome. I appreciate that. We love hearing that it's working. From our aspect, we feel like it's working, but when we hear it from parents, then that really it just makes us smile from the inside. Thank you.
We appreciate your willingness to do this.
Of course, yeah.
As you know, it's much different than what you signed up for.
It is, but you know what? It's been fun, and I like new things. I like challenges, and I think our team really got to the point where they embraced it. And this can be fun, and it can be done well. And we're finding out how well we can do it. And it's been fun. I mean, it's been great to see kind of that growth with the other teachers with me. So.
I think I can wait for Jennifer.
All right.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Ms. Sheen, for presenting. And clearly you can see the problem-solving attitude and enthusiasm that she has, and that's even more evident when she's interacting with the kids. But just watching that KSD Connect team, and Ms. Tumchek's here, she's been the administrator responsible for helping lead that program, and has done a great job of supporting those teachers. But just the KSD Connect elementary team over the last 4 to 6 weeks they've made a huge transition because they are willing to continue to engage and find things that are going to work better and collaborate with each other. And it's just been impressive to see them make those modifications and do what they need to do for our students. So kudos to you. Thank you.
I am going to talk to you about the hybrid, the secondary hybrid. With any new endeavor comes your successes as well as your challenges, and we've had plenty of both. Successes, the majority of our kids are doing very well. Our numbers of A's and B's far outweigh our low grades. So that's a positive. A lot of the kids are finding success with this. Our teachers, they love the in-person days. They love the small classes, and they said this year, more than other years, they've actually connected with kids that they think they would have never connected with. Those quiet kids that can hide in a classroom, you know, when you've got 20 or 25 kids there. But when you have 10 kids in a classroom, they can't hide, you know, so they feel like they've made connections with kids they never would have otherwise. They love their Wednesdays. There's a lot of preparation that goes into these hybrid days. They're very grateful for the Wednesdays. They don't know what they would do without the Wednesdays. I'm sure you guys know a lot of these teachers, they don't have any extra plan time. They're teaching online, they're teaching hybrid, and they don't have extra time to prepare for that. So the Wednesdays are set up for extra support for kids and Zooms, but also it gives teachers a time to think about what they're going to be doing that next week and planning forward. The teachers are very glad that they learned the Nearpod and the Screencast-O-Matic, because at one time we were talking about doing live classes. And, you know, we have our in-person kids and our at-home kids and everybody doing it live at the same time. They see now that that would have been a disaster, and they are so glad they had that time to prepare and learn these new programs. They have really streamlined their process. They have gotten very good at this. They, you know, they have a system in place, and they like the way they are presenting these lessons now. And the kids who are taking advantages of the supports offered, which is primarily Zoom, they are finding success. We can go into our challenges, and that would be that secondary kids do not like getting on Zoom with their teachers. They are not taking it. Unlike the elementary kids who love getting on Zoom with their teachers, secondary kids do not love getting on Zoom with their teachers. Another struggle is both our kids and our teachers, they are missing that relationship piece. Our kids, you know, they connect with these teachers. We have always talked about how important that teacher-student relationship is for student success. And they are just not making the connections like they have. They're there 2 days a week. They're just not making those connections. Teachers got into the business. They love kids. They love spending time with kids. They love connecting with these kids, and it is very hard to do that this year. We have a lot of our high school kids who are working. They're working 35, 40 hours a week. That means on their virtual days, you know, school is not a priority. And then they're coming home and they're trying to get their schoolwork done, and they're getting behind, and it's, so we do have a lot of kids who are struggling. We still have some internet connection issues. I think, Ryan, you're going to talk about that, aren't you? Access points and stuff. Yeah. Is that on there? Okay. Well, we are getting additional access points through the Missouri Access Grant. We are getting access points that will be installed on buses that can be placed at different places around the community. And then we're also going to have access points on different buildings, strategically placed around out in Holt and different places that's planned. So that should help people with connectivity. And another challenge is that although most kids are being successful, we do have teachers that feel like they feel like they're taking it on themselves for the kids that are not successful. And that's really tough on these teachers, because they are working incredibly hard, and to feel like they're catching some of the blame, that's a difficult thing on them. Seeing lots of tears from teachers. They are trying, they're working hard. They have high expectations, and they struggle when they see a kid struggle. Things that we have put into place, we do have before and after school tutoring. We have virtual tutoring, we have in-person tutoring. We do have kids showing up, quite a few kids show up after school at the middle school. We have a few show up at the junior high. They said in the high school, even though they have tutoring in the library every day after school, 1 or 2 kids show up. They have tutoring every morning, and maybe 1 kid will show up. Virtual tutoring, they have had 0 kids that will show up for virtual tutoring. So getting that's a challenge for us, getting these kids to reach out for help. You know, we're trying to put things out there for them, but getting them to use these resources has been a challenge. They have started bringing kids in on their off days. They're in, it's by invitation kids that are, failing a number of classes. They are inviting them to come in and get special help. They're doing that at both the high school and the middle school. The high school's using their academic resource class for kids to come in and get additional help during the day. Kids can come in and get additional help on Wednesdays, and they can Zoom on Wednesdays. So that is a challenge, just getting kids to reach out for help. Moving forward, today we did reconvene. It's the same basic task force, secondary task force that we had this summer, talking about how we were going to roll things out. We pulled those teachers and administrators back together today. We are planning on meeting every week, and we have set a deadline of November 23rd. I think that's the Monday before Thanksgiving, that we will have our recommendations for adjustments to be made for second semester. We're listening to students, we're listening to the teachers. We are going to send out another parent survey at the end of this first quarter, get feedback from parents, try to get an idea of how many people are going to stay KSD Connect, or who's planning on coming back in person to the hybrid. We're looking at student grades, the areas that they're failing. How can we relieve stress of the teachers? How can we relieve stress of the kids? And how can we connect with these kids to get them to come in and ask for help? We're looking at different solutions, but we hope to get good information from parents and teachers, and we'll listen to everybody and we'll come up with the adjustments that need to be made.
So, sorry, you go ahead. That's okay. This may be a question for Jeff or Jennifer or Dr. Miller. You guys are so busy, I'm sure you don't have much time, but do you feel like that the issues that we have are consistent with the issues in other districts as you talk to your counterparts?
Absolutely.
Is there anything different, or?
I talk to my friends at Liberty every week. I talk to Smithville, Excelsior Springs. I mean, everybody is pretty much struggling with the same issues. I mean, it's across the board.
And so you see it predominantly in the adolescent, in this age group in secondary. You see, like you said, the communication, that sort of thing. I know from my own experience with my household, I know, like you said, we have these Zooms and everything like that, but if you have a kid who's very tactile, in person, or, and then involved in multiple sports and things too, would always been an A student, and then for them to hit a C is like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's everything. But they're also used to, if hey, just my instructor, we're in class, you know what? And part of it is the lessons, like you said, they don't want to be in contact. But afterwards, I can go up and talk to Jeff and kind of, hey, I was so protected, I want to go over this. And he can give me that insight. I don't think that feeling is there with the same, distant part and the virtual part and everything like that. And of course, again, too, like machines, you got somebody who's in 4th grade, where, it's a different generation, the more receptive or anything like that. You've already got this other generation that's already went through. They kind of are dependent mindset on having that, quick talk, pro quo type thing, and have some answers and then move forward. And so it makes it harder. And again, just being a teenager in general, I guess. just, a lot of personal things and other things that we share.
So can I ask a question about the teacher? So I'm being very consistent here. So elementary, normal schedule plus an hour. What are the middle school teachers working, because they're also doing in class, they're doing online, and they're doing Zoom additional calls. So what does their average day timeline look like?
Well, at the middle school, there is a set hour for the KSD Connect kids. Each team, like the 6th grade spirit team, no, 7th grade spirit team is your KSD Connect team. So any 7th grader, their math teacher is always Mr. Wallard, and he has a set hour that he teaches those kids. So he will Zoom live with those kids during that time.
Right. What additional time are they spending to roll those two roles? So like in elementary, we've got people that are, specifically taking the KSD Connect kids.
Mhm.
Where in the middle school and the high school, we've got teachers pulling double duty.
We absolutely do. Now, I think the tougher places are the junior high and the high school,
Okay.
because the middle school does have more time
Okay.
and dedicated time to that. Other than their elective teachers do not have additional time, so they're having to plan for a lot, so they're putting in additional time. Junior high and high school, I'm telling you, some of those teachers are putting in a lot of hours.
So sustainability is not there if they continue to put these hours in. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So our biggest challenge as a board is to figure out how to help those teachers.
And that is what our task force is meeting on. We recognize our teachers have incredibly high expectations. And I love that they do. But we know what they are putting on, what we put on them and what they're putting on themselves is not sustainable. And that is what the task force is doing. We are coming up with ideas of how we can reduce the stress on the teachers. It's things like, honestly, we offer too many electives to our secondary people. We have teachers who are planning for only a couple of kids who are online. We need to reduce some of those offerings. We need to find additional time in the day for teachers to get that extra time that they can plan for these things. We need to make shifts. We recognize that. That's what the task force is all about.
Ms. Scott, the board received an email from a parent today, who has a junior high student, who says, my child just isn't learning in a hybrid model. What type of services, what type of further benefits are we providing to them to help them do it? What can they reach out? What can they do? What can we provide them?
Well, we do have Bulldog Zone, which is the after-school tutoring. I know that they are also offering kids to come in during the day. If they're struggling in an area, they can come in and work. They have a teacher that will work with the kids.
Is that information going out to parents, or is that just being relayed to the students?
They are actually, they are targeting their struggling kids, and they are making phone calls. They are contacting the people directly. Now, Bulldog Zone, it's been there at the junior high, for several years. That's part of what we use our SSS funds for. Our teachers, work in the library after school. So they are in the library after school to tutor the kids.
So if a kid's involved in sports though, say they have football afterwards or some other sport for 2 or 3 hours, they're not gonna be able to go to that. They have to go to during the day at some point.
They can go on their virtual day. Yeah, it's my understanding, and I thought we did get an email about that.
Well, and everybody has access to their teachers on Wednesdays. All the teachers have their Zoom hours, and not today, but last week, they said it was almost 0 kids that Zoomed in.
there seems to be some type of disconnect somewhere in this, because if you listen to some of the chattering coming from some of the parents that children are struggling, and maybe you can test this, I haven't had actually any of them mention that their child is taking advantage of any of these opportunities. And that disappoints. I think it's amazing that we have them, and kudos to you guys for getting all that available. But there has to be a disconnect, because those parents are just, much like the one that emailed in, they're focused on the fact that their child can't succeed in this, but none of them are bringing to the table that they're taking advantage of these opportunities and still failing. So either the parents are just too focused on getting back to full-time school, and they're utilizing this as part of that tool to try to get us there, or we just don't have the information to the parents that those tools are there. So I don't know where it is, but maybe there are parents who feel like their kid needs more help, but those teachers aren't targeting those kids. So I don't know if we do need some type of blanket communication that at each level, these are the available resources if you feel like your child is struggling and not succeeding, because they might be getting a B, but the parents realize, my student used to be an A student, and now they're just a B and a C student, but that's not enough for us to pick up if they're not doing as well. But in the parents' mind, they're struggling. So I don't know if we need some type of communication that these things are available, so that they all know that.
Yeah, and I do know that Miss Kroll at the high school, she's the one that put the tutoring together in the library, and she put together a great website dedicated just to the tutoring. Has a link to all the different teachers that'll do virtual tutoring and who's there in person after school. And she said she shot it up to everybody, all the kids' email addresses, and they just haven't had many takers. And I know they're very disappointed in that, because they know it's a needed service.
But I think maybe what Brian's saying is, you can't tell somebody once that it's available, you gotta tell them 10 times. And I think maybe that's a little bit more of what we need, whether it's through the weekly bulletin, an email to parents or something like that, because the parents are seeing their kids struggle. And if we told them at the beginning of the year, oh, there's this tutoring on Wednesdays, they may have forgotten that by now. They're just trying to help their kids survive this virtual learning thing. So I think we need to tell them multiple times.
Well, personally, I don't usually go to my family as a bus, but I just told my sons, like, if I could go to another district right now and go to school physically, I would want to be there and go to school physically, because I just think it's more for me to be there and be present, be a learner. He's always, student-wise, it's always held.
Everybody wants that.
How do the teachers feel that in-person learning is going? Do they feel like they're getting things done when they're in person, or
Yes.
are they doing more of a catch up and trying to filter questions and act like, are they backpedaling on those days, or are they moving forward?
I will tell you, I heard both. I've heard teachers absolutely love their in-person days. They feel like they get more done on the in-person days. Just the classes are so small, they can get through a lot of information. But I did hear a high school teacher say today that, she spends the first 5 minutes, talking to them about what they should have done, and then the last 10 minutes of the day, because they're not going to see them for 2 days, talking about what they need to make sure they're focused on for the next 2 days. So then she's really trying to get all of her lesson in 30 minutes. So
We also talked about mental health assessments when we came back to school 6 weeks, 6 weeks now, which is great. We have implemented those, we have done those.
they're in the process right now. The Panorama suggested that we wait for 6 to 8 weeks after the start of school to let the kids settle in. Most of our secondary have taken it this week. Elementary, because some of the questions are kind of tough, so the counselors are actually going classroom to classroom.
Plus KSC Connect.
Yes, yeah. So, it's gonna take time. Our deadline is November 6th to get all those assessments in, and then the counselors will have an additional training to really break down that data.
Do most of the teachers feel like they're on target? Same question I had earlier. They feel like they're on target for where they should be this year?
I think so, yeah. I mean, they are really trying to stay. Now, they have taken out they are hitting what they feel are absolutely the essential standards, and they are hitting those things hard. So, I mean, they have pulled some things out of their curriculum, but they are staying on target where they need to be,
What they consider essential.
what they consider essential, yes.
So, probably the same thing that a lot of people are struggling with, I believe, at secondary level, is the organization of things like what you showed us for KSD Connect. You know, they go to this one site and they go to Zoom and all that kind of stuff. Of course, when you're at the high school and you've got these different courses, I gotta go to this teacher's Zoom and this teacher's Google, site.
Every single teacher's Google Classroom is set up like that one, with the week set up with,
Well, I went through the experience with my daughter, and things were different per class. They definitely were different. So that's what I think what a lot of people are struggling with, as parents, seeing that. But there is a different side to that too. I asked my daughter, we talked about what the struggles were, and she said, the one thing this has done is it has helped me organize. I have to have a different folder for each class for everything I'm keeping and everything. If talk about preparing for college, she wasn't doing that before. It was making me crazy that she didn't have a calendar. She has completely reorganized. So I know that's probably the same thing that some other kids are struggling with. And she's taken it and done this. But I think that's a big issue for a lot of parents and kids, is that they don't feel, organized, I guess is the best way to say it.
Well, a couple of things. I said, I do think if kids would learn to work through this, they will be better for it in the long run. The other thing a teacher said today is that the kids who are reaching out are being successful, and we have got to teach kids to advocate for themselves and to ask those questions and to go get that help, because we all know when they go away to college, that's important. They have got to be their own best advocate. So, I do think some good things will come out of this. It's hard, but I believe there's some positives that will come.
I do too.
Do you feel like, listening to our fourth grade teacher talk about the success of the program, obviously those are parents who chose for their kids to go full-time virtual. So likely if we went back and backtracked to those students, they're going to have highly engaged parents or stay-at-home parents who are going to be on the other end to make sure that those kids are there behind the computer. So when we look at some of the upper levels, when you get into the secondary levels for kids who have chosen complete KSD Connect, are those students actually doing better than the kids on the hybrid model? Because again, they chose to stay home, and maybe again, you may have a household that's more involved. Are those kids scoring and doing better on this virtual learning year?
No. No, the KSD Connect kids are not doing as well as the hybrid kids.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of those kids I think part of the reason some of them did that was so they could work.
Okay.
So they're not as engaged. And it takes a lot of self-dedication for those kids at the high school level to have that motivation.
Would you say that it's your college kids are the ones that are staying focused? Or the kids that are looking to, let me rephrase that, not college even, because it could be trade school. So your kids that are going to go to the next level of education after high school are the ones that are staying engaged. And the ones that are going to go straight into a trade or straight into the workforce are the ones that are less inclined to participate.
To be honest, John, I haven't looked at it.
I said, I don't know if they would be
I
able
don't know that you can answer that. I don't know if it's
No,
your question.
my question,
But
I think John, just for me, I think it's probably all over, because I'm looking at, there's, looking at my
maybe that's a
kid, he's taking
question.
AP college, he's got a lot of higher up classes, which would probably be hard even if you were there physical for some people. And so I think it's probably across the board with students. I think
I will tell you, across the board, when I ran all failing courses. Very few Fs are in our college classes, in our high-level classes. They're
Is that
not,
pretty typical when we're not?
that's typical.
So if the trend is the same,
Yes.
It's gonna be
I
the
guess the
same.
way to look at it, and what I would ask is, are the grades generally consistent with what they were when you weren't at virtual?
It's gonna be that.
They're a little lower right now. What we would compare to right now is stored grades. They're not stored until the end of the quarter. So, and we know a lot of kids get motivated at the end of the quarter and they start.
Typical in standard
Yeah.
classroom.
Right.
So,
Right, so we really don't have the exact comparative right now. We, in another week, we'll know more. We know that in the last week at the high school, 88 Fs went off the list. I mean, they're scrambling now.
and then the semester will be another
That's right, that's right.
increase. So, okay.
That's the right way to establish.
And then I guess the other thing, you think, Jennifer, that's just theoretical, but do you think some people with how we started in COVID at the beginning of the year, and we kind of changed up right towards the end of the year, people got a different mindset, what this learning was to what it is now? Because we've transformed so much, and it's become so much, and we've tried to stick with, more of a structure and everything like that. Where there, we were kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what we were doing. So I think households had a different
And gosh,
mindset.
we
Yeah.
really tried to get that message across that it wasn't going to be the same, that I don't know if some people just didn't believe us.
Yeah, because I think the thought process there.
Well, as we began this item, I mentioned we've had 6 weeks of school. So if you think about that from the hybrid scenario, this is still relatively new. I mean, it seems like it's been a year since we started school. The times, it's been really fast and really long at the same time. Kind of like having young babies at home. But 6 weeks of school in the hybrid setting means that our secondary kids have only been in person 12 times. So think about that. It's still pretty new. We're doing some things that are different than we've ever done before, and so it's not perfect, I think, but and we have some room to grow, which is where I see the hope in all of this with our task force. There are people, and you know this. I'm new, so I'm learning it and have learned it. But when you go around and talk with teachers in our district and students in our district, we've got students that are trying to adjust and do the very best they can with this very unusual situation, and it's hard for them. They're persevering and they're working really hard. They're being bold. And we have teachers that are working. I never could believe teachers could work harder than they would in a typical school year. And wow, I mean, the things that they're doing and the things that they're working on are just incredible. The amount of effort and perseverance that they're putting. And so we're going to keep working to try to make things better. I've heard a lot of confidence in the secondary task force to be able to make some real adjustments to improve our student experiences and also improve our some efficiencies, make things more sustainable for our teaching staff. Of course, with the hope that someday, as soon as we possibly can, we can get back to full capacity classes at the secondary level. As soon as that appears to be safe and that our health officials can tell us we can, that's where we want to go. But in the meantime, we're trying to make hybrid work the very best it possibly can, because that's certainly a lot better than forcing everyone into a virtual setting. So, we've got this middle spot, the hybrid, that we think is better, and we think we can make it even better going forward.
What is your suggestion for secondary student and parent that says they're just not learning, this is not working, they need to be back in school full time? Who do they contact? Is it their building principal, counselor? Who do they go to if they just, nothing's working?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's always great to start with a teacher and say, hey, I'm really having a hard time, and teachers are great problem solvers to help figure out some things. Counselors are awesome resources in a lot of different ways, especially at the secondary level, from anything academic to social emotional needs. And principals are outstanding at seeing the big picture and helping make connections to resources that may not be apparent to other people. So I think, really just communicating directly what your needs are to someone, and we're going to work to address those issues and help solve the problems together.
Well, please tell all staff, teachers, thank you for all the hours that they're putting in. Because it is not going unrecognized. We definitely recognize it.
The task force, is it only staff and teachers and administrators? Are you pulling any parents from the community for input of any sort?
Not
currently.
Thank you for your information. Update on all of that. Obviously, it's important to all of us to know how it's going. Keep up the tough work. Financials, anyone have questions? Nothing.
Very quickly, you'll see continued good budget manager stewardship, I suppose, and then also the work that business office led by Zelsi and others have you can see it reflecting in our fund balance. We've gotten some grant monies in, and that sounds real easy, but the paperwork and the different rules that go with the different funding sources that are new this year than a typical year have paid off. And we are looking at projected into your fund balance at 20% now. So that's some great news.
Nice job.
Thank you. Anything you want to talk about regarding our membership?
If you scroll all the way down to the very last graph, you can see that our membership in 1920, our September membership, which is the count date, that's our official count date. It was 3,506 last year. This year, 3,493, and that's with many more transfers to homeschool and private school than we would see in a typical year. So very close to flat enrollment overall this year. So to me, that reflects that our community continues to grow, even though we're not seeing more students right now. I would anticipate seeing some of those students return to us post-pandemic.
Thank you. Next is the action items.
POAC it's People of All Colors Succeed. It's a community organization that does work with schools and communities. It's anti-bullying, it's diversity training. We've been working with Mr. Jamie Grayson since last year. He's come in, talked to our DEI committee. He came in and talked to our students last spring. He has a program where he puts students through a course. We would do it for the middle school, junior high, and high school. It just teaches kids, it's trying to build allies for kids who might experience bullying. It's teaching kids to have those critical conversations and really discussing to understand where others are coming from and, not arguing like what we see so much of what's going on right now, but teaching kids to really listen and try to understand. So we would put the kids through his program. And it's, and in the end, it's a student-led organization, and we just hope that we would continue to put more and more kids through the program. Any kids who would want to go through, we would put them through those.
Take a motion.
I move to approve the POAC, or People of All Colors Succeed agreement as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Next is the City of Kearney CARES resolution.
I think as a reflection of what a great community we live in, the city of Kearney has passed this resolution offering to share some CARES funding with the school district. And, just have to express appreciation for the thoughtfulness and the giving from our city to support our school district and some needs that we have here. So this resolution is presented for the board.
Fantastic opportunity. It's great that the city of Kearney supports our district as well as we do. We can't say enough.
Right.
Thank you to the iPad. I reached out to the mayor specifically about that. This is tremendous. It's a great opportunity for us. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the City of Kearney CARES resolution as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we're going to talk about what we're going to do with that one.
Well, when at the beginning of the year, knowing that we're going to have many more virtual opportunities than normal, we used the funds available to us and really worked hard to try to find enough funding, frankly, to be able to move the district to 1-to-1 grades 2 through 12. And unfortunately, we didn't have the funding at that time to provide devices to be 1-to-1 in kindergarten and first grade. And so with the City of Kearney CARES funding, one of the things that we'll be able to address here is purchasing iPads for kindergarten and first graders. And also, we have another need that has become evident is with our teachers working remotely. Chromebooks don't work great for all applications that they may need to use for classroom instruction. And so purchasing some mini laptop computers for our teachers that allows for better virtual instruction for them as well, and to be more efficient. And then finally, there are some, I think that's it. Included in here are some other things. Ryan, what's the software called that we use for the iPads? Can you describe that for us?
Talking about the air parrot reflector. So that will allow our teachers to project their iPads onto their computers and then show that on their projector so they can demonstrate with the kids, help them follow along.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the purchase of iPads, teacher laptops, and related accessories as recommended in the amount of $299,826.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have program evaluation approval, school health and wellness. So we have Karen Hatfield here, our district nurse, presenting information for health and wellness. Karen's probably not going to tell you, but I would like to brag on our school nurses. They've taken on an additional challenge this year. They've met that and collaborated, and it takes good leadership, and that's what Karen has provided for these nurses. And she's had two nurses that have joined our staff this year, and to keep them and their sanity going is a huge challenge, but Karen and her staff have done a tremendous job. And they've tackled some things that have been tough, and they continue to work with Clay County weekly in meetings. They don't only have once a week just for Kearney, but then also with all the school districts. So kudos to that staff.
School nurses, they're an essential part of all of every district. We're very fortunate in our district to have a nurse in every building. And until I started doing this job, I didn't realize that all schools didn't have nurses. Even the bigger schools don't have nurses for every building. So I feel very fortunate that we are able to do that. The nurses, especially this year, have transcended from treating bumps and bruises and ice packs to being the central force in helping our parents gain healthcare access, finding healthcare essentials for our students, and even beyond that. So the school nurse plays three main roles in all of our child guidance: providing direct care for our students, educating our staff and students on personal health care, and finding health care for students beyond the school. I know this from March till May, all of the nurses were available. Some of them were working in the schools, delivering meals, doing screenings and so forth, and also making calls to parents, how they're doing, checking on the well-being of all the kids and the whole family itself. So amid the pandemic, the role of the school nurses have changed greatly. We've had to establish isolation areas, help students and staff with PPE, constant triaging of our students for mental health issues that they might be experiencing. We've had to learn how to contact trace and learn an entire new vocabulary. Words like PPE, pivot, contact trace, quarantine, and the word NOLA is unprecedented. My favorite is from a student who reported to one of the nurses that he had the Rona. He knew this would be the worst 2020. Along with the new tasks that our nurses have to do, they have to actually run their health room. We have really high needs of some of our students, and you'll be able to see that as we go through this. As you can see in our staffing information, we have me as the supervising nurse, and we have five total RNs in the district, along with an LPN and a health clerk. On this next grid, you can see that this is everything accumulative that a nurse does in their office. You have the treatments, medication administration, screenings, contact with the parents, and everything else that is involved in the healthcare. You can see from 2018, and I included last year, which was an abbreviated year, the number of students that our healthcare nurses see in each room every year. You can see on a daily basis, the average of students that the nurses sees in their office. I did put in the junior high, the major increase that we have has been due to our WIN students. You can see that my nurses are quite busy.
Next question, please.
Absolutely.
On that average number of visits per day, and I know that at the secondary level, they don't have as many students, but how does that compare to previous years? Because those numbers surprise me. I had no idea they saw that many.
You mean from
The average number of visits per day.
Oh. How does that rate for any other years?
I mean, like, yeah, but so at the high school, 72 per day. And if we've got half the number of students in there on a given day, was it double that? Like last year, when we had everybody in the building, you know? I just had no idea they saw that many. You know what I mean?
This is last year.
This is last
No,
year.
last year.
Oh, this is, those are last
This is
year.
last year.
Oh, I didn't get that, okay.
Yes.
I thought those were.
Last year we had 11,156, and again, we ended in March, so that didn't finish the
Those
year
are
out.
okay.
Yes, ma'am. So, but again, like you say, it's hard to imagine how our nurses see that, and that was before Corona. It takes a lot of work. Obviously, it just takes a lot of compassion what they're doing, and a lot of caring for our kids. And really, compared to most schools, we're pretty average for the ones that are in our region.
I'm sorry, that incorporates everything, just so Susan knows, that, and because you're giving them medications, so kids have to have medications, all those routine things they come to
It's
work.
still more than I thought.
Then you got your daily people, you got the kids that are the routine, have to come to the office every day for my stomach or for something, just,
For the minutes.
it's just all kinds of, yeah, repeat offenders, yeah.
They really like those minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes. And you know, and it's just,
It's still,
it's
You
just
look
the
at numbers,
number
I mean, it's every 7 or 8 minutes. In high school, somebody used coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're giving them medication or whatever it may be, I mean, how you allocate.
Well, our medication numbers per building are very, very low. But our acuity levels have gone up so high to where, one diabetic, which I believe we have 9, but one diabetic alone, some days may come in for 7 blood sugar checks. If they're not feeling well, if they're ill, they can really change their blood sugar levels. So there's so many factors that play into a student with diabetes. And in the next few slides, you can see the high level of care of students that we do have. But, even from in our early education center, you can see the numbers, how they've gone from 2018-19 to 2019-20. And that's just because we got more students in our early education center. Are there any other questions on this? It's very impressive. When I sit and I do the numbers, it's like staggering to me, but anybody else have any questions? Okay. Smiles of Smiles is a wonderful program that is offered to our district free of charge to our students. They come in once a year, they bring their equipment, they bring their staff, they come in, and they provide services chairside to our students. They provide me with the numbers each year, and they just finished last week, and I don't have those numbers to present, but they were pretty much what I had seen on the year 1920. That was pretty average of what we had seen last year. And what they would have billed Medicaid is $10,241,000. That's what they've saved our community and our students. These are the daily treatments and conditions within our district of students that we have. You can see this, I'll put this for a 5-year span. How many students that we have as far as diabetes and blood sugar checks. So not all diabetics have to have blood sugar checks. We have, I believe, 2 type 2 diabetics who only require oral medication, so they don't have to have the daily blood sugar checks like some of our kiddos do. And most of our kids are on the Medtronic CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. So the nurse has that into their phone. They can see and actually respond to the child. If the blood sugars drop, say 40, that nurse can actually go to that student's classroom and intercept something that needs to be done. We have ostomy cares, we have tube feedings. So you can just see the beginning of some of the conditions that we do have within our district. This is a little more of a, these are the numbers that I have to turn into the state, so that's the reason I have chosen these conditions, because these are what are required by the state. Most of our GI kids are in elementary, and those are the ones with Crohn's disease, and so those kids can get very sick very quickly. Let's see. Are there any on here that you all have any questions? Or we have 7 children in our district that have cancer. We have 3 that are in remission, and we have, 4 that are in remission, and we have 3 that are, 2 that are undergoing treatment still, and 1 that's in ongoing kind of lymphoma treatment. These are some of the other conditions. I think migraines was probably the one that jumped out at me the most when I looked at the numbers. We've gone from 59 to 97. I'm not sure, is it because it's easier to diagnose? I'm not sure why we have such a large number of those. We have 2 in our district that have been organ recipients.
You have the same with anxiety too. I mean, actually, the number changed from the beginning to the end. It was much greater with anxiety than it is migraine.
We have 6 with PTSD. We have 2 that are with progressive neuromuscular disorders. And one of them just had major spinal surgery this 3 days ago. He did. So, anybody have any questions as we're going through this? I mean, you just see what the numbers are. We only have 79 within our district that are on routine meds. I mean, that may sound like a lot, but for the population that we have, that really isn't that many per building. We have 23 that have seizure disorders, and I believe 14 of those are active seizures that require medication and constant monitoring. Any questions on any of these? We have a lot of strengths. This was very hard to pick the few that I want to show on here. But we have great administrative support. We have Miles to Smiles. Our new program is Level Up Kids. Level Up Kids is our vision program through Miles to Smiles, and it is free to our students. And they do provide free glasses as well. So we make our appointment to the Miles to Smiles. They set up an appointment for that student. They get examined by a physician, and usually in 2 weeks they'll have free glasses. Our staff has to be dedicated for what they do for the amount of students they see. And I'm very fortunate to have such a wonderful staff. As far as the wellness goes, we've been wellness, that's been kind of one of the hot topics for a few years. We've gone to the smart snack standards. We have changed the vending machines in the school stores. We've adopted wellness policies. Again, we did the smart snack standards. There are so many activities that are planned in each one of the elementary buildings, like Bike to School Day at Dogwood, and our Southwest Food Excellence, who has provided food to our students as they've gone through a full year now. And also really good to work with. Opportunities for growth. To have a full-time float nurse would be more than ideal at this situation, since we have so many high-need students. As far as what I do, it would be helpful for me to have someone that floated, because I take care of the kids in early childhood, along with taking the care plans and health plans for the schools that don't have RNs. So I developed healthcare plans within 3 schools within the district. And that's a lot of work. And that's at the beginning of the year. So as the nurses are putting in their immunizations and putting in medication, these kind of things, our float nurse would be really beneficial for. We have a shortage of substitute nurses. It's been virtually impossible to find subs. We've had a couple, 2 of the nurses that left last year. They've helped us out tremendously with going in and trying to help out as much as they can. Well, wellness is concerned, continuation of the wellness committee, providing staff incentives with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Jeff worked on that this last year, and we provided glasses, I believe, with their water bottles. And we were hoping to do maybe a little more this year, but with some of the changes, it's been a little more difficult. We've obviously had social media growth to our community. We use a lot more telecommunication and virtual things to communicate with our students and staff. So the program goals are to continue providing immunizations to our incoming 8th and 12th graders in their respective buildings. We've done that, we did that last year for the first time. We were able to provide immunizations that went directly to the middle school and the high school, and took care of those students with the consent of the parent to have their immunizations up to date. We only have 4 students in our entire district that are not compliant with immunizations, which I can't tell you how unbelievable that has been with the help of all the nurses. They made endless phone calls to get all of those up to date. The requirements, the healthcare requirements like the DESE, the develop, facilitate the school environment promoting student health. So we want to make sure that our kids stay healthy, the ones that are in our buildings and the ones that are not. The student well-being and now mental health is more of an issue more than any time that we've been in this. The ability to learn. We're always learning new things. One thing about a nurse has always had to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And this has really brought that to fruition this year. And our nurses have definitely had the challenge. Encourage healthier eating and living habits. That's been a little more difficult, I think, with since March. I think we've been a little more inside, but our diets weren't the greatest. But now we're able to get outside and enjoy being outside, and I think people are kind of adapting. Does anyone have any questions about the program or about any of the numbers that you've seen?
Karen, I'm just hearing you need a full-time float nurse. That's what I'm hearing. At least, and I've seen other districts and other people have added on different healthcare, team too. And so, that's what I'm hearing as a board member.
What do you do on a day that a nurse is not in the school? Do you have to cover it? How does that work?
Actually, I do. For example, this last Friday, I had a nurse that had to leave due to illness. We have nurses that were around that school, so it was Hawthorne, and again, I can't say enough about how the nurses all pick up. So the ones at the high school, which that's a little closer than any of the others, even closer than me. So she said she would be the first there, and if they needed anything, Southview said they'd be there to help as well, and the junior high kind of in a path. We always make sure that we have a backup plan. I'm usually the first, but again, if someone's closer, they drop what they have and they go. We did have an ambulance called at, I believe, Southview last week. The kid that fell into his head. So it seems like there's a broken arm and 2 broken arms, I think, this year so far. So it's pretty busy. But yes, to answer your question, I try to fill in when I can. I do have a tube feeder here, so I have to meet his requirements first.
Thank you. Appreciate the information, your dedication to this, especially at a time like this. Very
challenge.
Thank you.
It's a good job. Thank you.
Next, we have the gifted program presentation.
Okay. Our gifted programs. So we know gifted programs, they're not just a bunch of super smart kids. These are kids that they think differently and they have their own challenges. So our goal is to meet their needs, their specific needs, beyond that, what is taught in the regular class. Okay, so these are our teachers. Jennifer Crane, she has all of our elementary students. We start in second grade. So she's got our elementary, second through fifth, and she also has our middle school kiddos, the sixth and seventh graders. And then our gifted goes through ninth grade, so Daniel Roberts has our eighth and ninth grade students. So our program strengths right now, Jennifer Crane is a certified gifted teacher. Daniel Roberts, he will be, in December, he will get his gifted certification. Last year, we were going to take a little hit to the budget because they changed the rules on gifted and because it would have had a significant drop in our gifted enrollment not to have a certified teacher. We asked Mr. Roberts, who he was already serving in that capacity and doing everything a gifted teacher would do, he just was not certified gifted. So Mr. Morrison and I talked to Mr. Roberts about getting certified, and he was super excited about it, said he had thought about it before. So he applied to a program last year at Truman. He's doing a fast track program. He started in the spring and he will finish in December. He was able to get his provisional gifted certification, so that was a huge win for that program. Typically, our second through seventh graders have a pull-out structure. This year, they are being seen virtually. Typically, we would transport kids from all the different elementary schools over to Kearney Elementary to meet with Ms. Crane. This year, she is meeting all of the students through Zoom meetings. They are not getting as many minutes this year. It is not possible. She cannot see all of the second graders at the same time, so she's kind of having to shift around. They are getting the required 150 minutes a week, so I mean, we are meeting those requirements. The engineering piece for our second through seventh grade is also a program strength. Our student choice in both their expert projects, second through fifth, as well as their passion projects at the junior high are very popular. Mr. Roberts has worked very hard on the affective needs in instruction and has incorporated that into his class. So social emotional needs are very important for our gifted students. So he's really become interested in that aspect of gifted. Our staff, we only have the two, Mr. Roberts and Ms. Crane, but they are both very passionate about this and they continue to get their professional development for gifted education. And another strength is just the way we are embedding the gifted instruction into our junior high English classes, and then he does the passion projects embedded into that class. Effectiveness of the program, here are some of our different scores. Our gifted students, average ACT in 18-19 was 29.4, which is huge. Our kids who aren't gifted, we have a great average at 22.9. 19-20, not quite as strong, but still strong at 28. Our follow-up for 2019 grads, Ms. O'Brien is right now working on our 2020 grad follow-up, and that's not done yet. But for our 2019 grads, kids that went to a 4-year college, 19 out of our 23, and 4 of them went to a 2-year college, which this is because of the challenges of gifted kids. They are at risk. So to have 23 out of 23 go off to college, that is awesome because actually gifted kids have a high rate of dropout. Students graduating with market value assets, that, as you know, is a goal for the district. So we've had 23 graduates, gifted graduates in 18-19 as well as 19-20. In 18-19, 100% of them received a market value asset compared to the 12% of the regular the non-gifted kids. And then this last year, 23 graduated with a market value, 74% of the 23. And you can see our market value assets are actually going up, and with our regular kids, as you know, at 50%. Students graduating with college credits, an average gifted 9.35 credits. This is a little deceiving because this does not include our AP classes. And a lot of our kids take AP classes. We didn't count it because sometimes it counts as a college credit if you get a 3 or better, depending on what school you go to. So it's hard to determine what we can actually count as a college credit on that. What we feel are opportunities for growth, and they are our program goals, is to increase our real-world learning opportunities. And as I said, both of these teachers, they stay in with the professional development. They have Ms. Crane this last year worked very close with the DESE rep for gifted to talk about the effective needs of gifted students, and also Ms. Crane is working with them on a committee to develop gifted student goals for the state. And another opportunity for growth is identifying and meeting the social emotional needs. We have the panorama assessment that we will use. Mr. Roberts is he's creating a career interest unit that is based on gifted students. And he is working, part of his program that he is going through for gifted is the development of effective curriculum for gifted students. We know that it's important to identify their social emotional needs. They have high anxiety, high rates of depression and perfectionism, and they have a huge fear of failure. Because of their high intelligence, these kids can easily hide their challenges, and sometimes some of their issues are not identified until it is too late. So it is really important for us to stay on top of this and address their needs. Questions?
I'm sorry, none of us were ever gifted. So.
Well, I think it's really good that there is a focus on the issues that they fail when they go to college, because I certainly in my experience saw that they were highly motivated, but then they didn't know how to handle being on their own, and tremendous fear of failure, getting that first college C, they had straight A's and those kind of things. So to address it on this end is really going to be helpful to those students as they move on.
Well, we also know that, I mean, these kids here their entire life, you can be anything you want to be. I mean, anything. Well, that is overwhelming when you can be anything. That is, you know, and it's just hard for them to pinpoint a direction that they want to go. So they really need some guidance through all of that.
Thank you very much. Board member comments?
I move to approve the program evaluations for school health and wellness and gifted as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Board member comments? Again, I want to commend administration, staff, students, parents for all the work during the pandemic. These are challenging times, and that's just such an understatement. And we all, I know that the transition and the adjustments that administration, staff, students are making is tremendous. And the continued transition, involvement of that is going to be challenging. It is through the year. I know that people want to go back. We all want the pandemic gone. We're doing the best we can with what we have. I think we certainly have to continue to reach out to students, to families, to tell them, just being online isn't the only service we have. We are providing whatever service we can. We want them to know that. And that's what we continue to do. That's our challenge, whether it's during the pandemic or not. And we certainly want to make sure that we are telling everybody we're embracing it. We want to help, whatever it is. It's challenging. We heard it from the teacher. I mean, who talks about her isolation and being on the Zoom meeting all day long. That's a challenge. It's challenging to everybody involved. We have to recognize that and do everything we can. Thank you all. Thank you for the presentations tonight. Important days. In the first quarter, early out, Friday, October 23rd, October 27th, parent-teacher conferences, October 29th, half-day of school, half-day parent-teacher conferences, no school on the 30th, and our next board meeting is November 18th. Entertain a motion.
Move for a closed session to immediately precede the regular meeting in November, including any record or vote, to discuss items and issues allowable under section 610-021 of the Missouri Sunshine Law.
Second. Roll call, please.
Darlene Bailey,
Yes.
Brian Ham,
Yes.
Dan Holloway,
Yes.
John Kern,
Yes.
Reese Switzer,
Yes.
Susan Morman,